everyone, welcome to part 3 of the TikTok TechJam 2025 technical workshops. This is from Guesswork to Governance, Automating Geo-Regulation with Large Language Models presented by Tianhan Ye. I am your host for today, Phyllis Chua from the TikTok APAC Early Careers team and organizing team of TikTok TechJam 2025. Before we hand over the time to Tianhan, this is our agenda for today's workshop. So I will be providing a quick introduction to our hackathon, including the timeline, key dates, and judging criteria, following which I will pass the time to Tianhan, who will be sharing a little about herself, followed by a deep dive into the problem statement. Look forward to developing an appreciation for the complexities of real-world problems that businesses face in geo-regulation, and we hope that you will gain insights to help you better approach this challenge with confidence. And if you have any questions after, you can share them with us during Q&A. The TikTok TechJam is our flagship student hackathon, and this year we invite university students in Singapore to come together to break boundaries, unleash creativity, and showcase your coding capabilities as you build solutions for real-world problems and drive innovation. Through today's series of virtual technical workshops, we hope that you will gain insights into the various problem statements and be inspired by the key technologies that we use here at TikTok to drive product development. This year's theme is to build with joy and code for change. So build with joy is a celebration of learning, collaboration, and curiosity. This is in line with TikTok's mission to inspire creativity and bring joy. As participants are encouraged to embrace the spirit of innovation, where you can experiment freely, support each other, and have fun along the way as you grow together as builders of the future. While Build with Joy is all about the process, Code for Change is about the outcome. Here, students are challenged to think beyond the code and focus on impact. We hope that through this hackathon, teams are empowered to build solutions that drive positive change, solve real-world problems, and reflect TikTok's belief in shaping the future with responsible technology. So this is an overview of the hackathon timeline and key dates. So right now we're at the technical workshop stage, and in the upcoming 3 days, you can look forward to a very exciting 72-hour challenge where you'll be working on your solutions. So do note that this is also the project submission period. So please be very mindful about the deadline and ensure that your projects are submitted by 31st August, Sunday, 9 a.m. Following which, all projects will be evaluated by our judges, and the top teams will be invited to join us for an in-person TechJam final happening at TikTok Singapore office on 12 September, Friday, from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Here's also a recap of the general judging criteria for the hackathon across tracks. So note that this detailed information is available to you on our information document and Dev Post Hackathon page. So note that your projects will also be evaluated across these 5 main criteria: completeness and execution, technical quality, innovation and creativity, problem fit and value, and impact potential. So as part of the TikTok TechJam 2025, there are 7 tracks that you can choose from. And without further ado, I'm excited to pass the time to Tianhan, who will be sharing more about track number 3, from Guesswork to Governance, Automating Geo-Regulation with Large Language Models. Tianhan, please.
Okay, thank you, Phyllis. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Tianhan, a backend engineer from TikTok. I studied in NTU from 2018 to 2022, majoring in information engineering and media. And prior to joining TikTok, I have internship experience with Dyson and Grab. After graduation, I joined TikTok Privacy and Security Department, and our team's focus is location compliance domain. So during my free time, I enjoy climbing, snowboarding, and also knitting and crocheting. For me, life at TikTok is quite thrilling. We always aim for the highest and challenge ourselves to find the best solution possible. So now let's get started with our track's problem statement. So let's kick things off with some headlines you've probably seen before. Massive tech companies, names we all know, but we won't mention here, getting slapped with fines for regulation violations. Some of these numbers are staggering, millions or even billions of dollars. And it's not just once or twice, it keeps happening. So the question is, why is this happening? Why do even the most well-resourced organizations keep falling behind on compliance? So here is what really going on. There is a huge gap between what regulations demand and what actually gets built in products. Think of it like a canyon. On the one side, lawyers are drafting long, involving regulations, while on the other side, product teams are shipping features at lightning speed. Connecting these two is just hard. This isn't just a checklist problem anymore, it's a system problem, and bridging that gap is what makes compliance such a tough nut to crack. So let me make this concrete with an example. So picture this, country S just passed a regulation saying social media platforms can't collect or use teenagers' data for personalized recommendations. So this sounds quite straightforward, right? You might think it's an easy fix. Just find the recommendation team and tell them to turn the feature off for teenagers in that country, and the task is done. Well, unfortunately, reality is much more complex than that. So here is what actually needs to happen. Firstly, we need to identify all existing features connected to this regulation. In a complex social media product like TikTok, there will be multiple important features related to personalized recommendation. And secondly, behind these features, there will be multiple teams in charge, and we need to find all the engineering teams that build those products and work with them to create and deploy those compliance changes. Thirdly, while all these are happening, we must also keep a close eye on new features being developed and ensuring that nothing else will violate the regulations in the future. This becomes a never-ending process. It's a huge manpower cost, and it's like a constant firefighting mode rather than building proactively. So wouldn't it be nice if we have a smarter way to do all this? Imagine a world where we could just automatically track every feature and understand which ones might be a compliance risk and notify the right people before trouble starts. If only we could have a tool to act as a bridge between complex regulations and rapidly evolving product features. So here is where our big idea comes in. Let's use LLMs to help bridge this gap. As LLMs evolve rapidly, we can expect them to understand the technical documents, feature descriptions perfectly, and flag the potential risks accordingly. Combine that with a process where humans step in only when needed, and suddenly compliance becomes a lot more manageable. It's like having a really smart assistant keeping an eye on everything. Of course, this only sounds simple on paper. Building such a system is not easy. There are some core challenges, and I've only named a few here. So firstly, how do we ensure that LLM have enough context? Without sufficient context, their judgment, their predictions are not expected to be accurate enough for us. And secondly, how should we address the ambiguity caused by acronyms, jargons, and domain-specific terminology? With all this, it make us hard to interpret product documentation accurately. And I think this one is also linked to the context management point I just mentioned. And thirdly, LLMs sometimes hallucinate, which means they will confidently make up fake informations. We need guardrails to handle that. Fourthly, a human-in-the-loop process is also essential, but we must design it in a way that doesn't slow everybody down. And finally, we must balance false positives and false negatives. With too many false alerts, people start to ignore the system, but too few alerts will also potentially lead to risks slipping through. So let's take a few examples to illustrate these challenges. For example, acronyms. For this term CDS, does it stand for Content Delivery System or Compliance Detection System? The context matters. Insufficient context. In a sentence like, we will roll out feature X in US only. This sounds innocent and harmless, but why is it limited only to US? Is there a regulatory reason behind? We don't know. Ambiguity. A system like, for compliance reasons, we limit feature Y in SEA, EU, and Japan. This sentence indicates some kind of compliance awareness, but it doesn't specify which regulations. So should the system mark it as compliant or not? These are the subtle decisions we need to design for. So this slide is about the technical deliverables we expect you to ship. But this part is also mentioned in problem statement document. So I won't go into details here unless you have any problems, then you can raise in Q&A. So here are a few words for you to avoid pitfalls. Firstly, we are not looking for a flashy user interface. We want you to focus your energy on solving the technical problem. And also, the sample data set is only for reference. In the real-world business scenarios, the case will be much more complicated. So be careful, don't overfit your solution to the sample data set. And to help you get started, here's some suggested background knowledge that I think will be helpful for you. And first one, if you are new to LLMs, personally, I highly recommend this YouTube video deep dive into LLMs like ChatGPT. And also, I think it will be helpful for you for this project if you learn some prompt engineering techniques and also learn about RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation. And for frameworks, if you are comfortable with Python, then LangChain will be a good starting point. And if you are using Golang like me, then I know will be a good framework for you to use. Platforms like Hugging Face is a great resource. It provides many open source LLMs for you to download and use, and also some useful data sets. And if you want to run these large language models locally, then you can consider using Ollama and Open Web UI. So now let's recap what we have covered just now. We are building a system that monitors geo-compliance risks in product features using LLMs. We will tackle domain-specific terminology, mitigate hallucinations, and also design human-in-the-loop workflows to keep the workflow accurate and precise. And more importantly, this is a chance for you to get hands-on experience with LLMs and related technologies in real business contexts. And we encourage you to be creative, think outside of the box, and bring fresh ideas to the table. And most importantly, we hope you enjoy the process, have fun coding, experimenting, and learning. And that's all of my presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Tianhan. Thanks for the very, very clear and very, great presentation. So sorry. So I think we do have some questions that students have submitted beforehand, as well as in the chat box as well. So I'm going to give you some time to take a look at the chat box, and then you can feel free to pick the questions to answer. And we're also going to share some of the questions that students have asked us also in the chat box.
I think the first one that Joshua asked is also linked to the question 2 from Q&A form, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
They are asking about the full automation part and also about self-involving multi-agents. So I think I will answer the questions from Joshua and combine with question 2 from Q&A form. So the question 2 is what does it mean by full automation? What is considered full automation? Does it refer to the automation of checking? So the full automation in the problem statement, it refers to not just the automation of checking for global compliance logic. It also refers to the self-involving part of this agent. So for example, maybe this agent have a memory module that if a human feedback to this agent that the interpretation of this term you just mentioned is wrong, and I want to update the interpretation of this term to your system, then it can just enter in the chat box and the agent will automatically update its memory. Yeah, that's what I meant, but it's not just it can also achieve by other implementations. It's also up to you. And also the question 1 from Q&A form, can you explain what is the user journey like for a person checking for geo-specific compliance logic and whether the feature is compliant to the different laws? What are some particular things you look out for? What additional inputs you might use other than feature descriptions to aid in your compliance checks? So this question do have a few like sub questions. So for the first one is the user journey. So I think it's up to you to design. And so the user journey is also part of the challenge of this problem statement. And I want you to keep your fresh perspective. So I won't have a very detailed example here. And what are some particular things you look out for? What additional inputs? So other than the feature title and feature description, what you can also expect maybe a short feature documentation. So the documentation will have more context about this feature, but for this project, we won't have any other additional input. If the input will be the table with the feature name, and feature description. So as I just mentioned, you can expect the input to be up to 3 things. First thing is the feature title, then the feature description, and also a short documentation about the feature. Is there any scope of doing code analysis? So for this project, we limited only to feature information. Although in our real projects, we do use some code analysis, but it's out of the scope for this problem statement. Question 3 from Q&A form, are the features regulation specific or just general features? So you should expect the input are general features we get from ticketing system like Jira. So these features are not limited to regulation specific. It could be just a pure business related feature. So we expect this agent system to detect it accurately. Question 4 from Q&A form. So the goal is to build a system that flags feature needing specific compliance checks, for example, crypto reward streamers, which may be restricted in some countries, and then map out the relevant regulations. Because from the sample data, it looks like many features are already location specific. Is that right? I don't know if I understand correctly, but the goal is for you to build a system that flags feature needing special geo-compliance logic. This is generally true from my perspective. And many features are already location specific, yes, but this feature might also be just business related. It's not compliance related. So the agent should be able to detect whether this geo related feature is related to any specific regulations, or it's generally just for business.
Thanks so much, Tianhan, for answering so many questions that our students have sent in and also shared in the chats. Keep them coming if you have more. But I just wanted to point everyone to the information document. So there is a QR code that's on the screen right now. Feel free to scan it, and then you can actually see that in preparing for this problem statement, Tianhan and her team actually provided, potential projects as well as, what the inputs would look like and what the expected output could look like. So I think these are very informative and very useful. So I think in referring to these, you would be able to have a good guide in solving this challenge. Okay, I think we have a new question from Joshua.
Okay. Assuming we detect a general business feature, should we also check if a geo-specific feature is required? Yes, I think this is part of the problem statement. So even if this feature says it's a business feature, but if you detect that it's related to any regulations we provided in the additional information, like for example, it's a personal recommendation related feature, then we should expect the system to detect and flag that it will require geo-specific feature, geo-specific compliance feature.
Thanks, Tianhan. So I don't think we have any more questions, but I just want to thank everyone, for joining, and also again, pointing you to the problem statements that are in our information document. I think Tianhan has also pointed out that, because it is only a 72-hour challenge, it is already very, very challenging. So she has also identified certain regulations that you can choose to focus on in solving this problem. So yeah, thanks so much, Tianhan, and thanks so much everyone for joining us in this workshop.